All right, Madam Chair, we are ready and broadcasting. And Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Morro Bay Candidate Forum. We would like to thank the Morro Bay Chamber of Commerce for coordinating this important forum this evening. My name is Shelley Higginbotham, and I represent the League of Women Voters. The League is a nonpartisan organization which neither supports nor opposes candidates. Although we would prefer to meet in person, we are fortunate to have the Zoom platform to continue the goal of voter education. I am pleased to introduce our candidates this evening. Running for the seat of mayor, we have Mr. John Heading and Mr. John Weiss. Running for 2 open city council seats, we have Laurel Barton, Robert Red Davis, Richard Sadowski, and Betty Winholtz. The order of the questions to the candidates was chosen ahead of time. Opening statements will be 2 minutes, and answers to the questions are limited to 1.5 minutes. Questions were submitted to the League in advance of this forum, and we truly appreciate everybody who took the time to submit questions. So with that, we will begin the opening statement with John Weiss, followed by Robert Red Davis.
Mr. Weiss, I'm sorry, your microphone is muted.
Weiss, excuse me.
Hi, I'm your neighbor, John Weiss, and I'm running for mayor of Morro Bay. I'm a longtime resident and have been a successful retail business owner and resident for more than 40 years. I was invited in 2001 to become a Rotarian in Morro Bay and chamber president 2006 through 2011, which I view as great honors, which I enjoyed immensely. Since then, I helped charter the high school Rotary Club at Morro Bay High School, otherwise known as Interact, Rotaract, Young Professionals, and an environmental Rotary Club, which means I find it very important, the environment. I serve as a district governor, which meant I enjoyed leading those clubs providing community service in Kern, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. I graduated from the Citizens Academy in 2012. I attended to better understand the workings of our public safety departments, especially to understand how my company could benefit our public safety communications. Morro Bay is a full-service city. Our responsibility is primarily to provide police, fire, water, sewer, and roads. As your mayor, I will advocate to ensure our first responders have the training and equipment they need to keep our residents safe and continue to meet the high standards of their professions. I have ideas to ensure this happens. As your mayor, I will utilize my business skills developed during my 40 years as a local businessman and to help retain and attract profitable businesses, increase the city's economic viability. I will continue to support our hardworking commercial fishing fleet and advocate to make the waterfront sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Red Davis, followed by Laurel Barton.
Good evening. My name is Robert Red Davis. I'm running for re-election to City Council because I'm proud of the progress our city's made during the past 4 years. We're moving forward on a variety of fronts, and we will keep going with the right leadership. We're building a water reclamation facility that will make us water independent and drought proof. We're updating our general plan local coastal program and our zoning ordinance. We've begun a comprehensive program of economic development in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. We annexed Dog Beach to keep it dog friendly and open to the public, and we continue to work with stakeholders to protect the Chevron property as open space with recreational opportunities. We're working on a sustainable harbor plan that will replace aging infrastructure and develop a working waterfront. We're working with Castle Wind to develop renewable energy and a new industry for our city and our fishermen. We've adopted a strategic planning process that helps us develop our city in a thoughtful and methodical way, paying attention to housing needs, economic development, and support for our local business community. This election is about the future, where you think your city ought to be headed. The important things that I will work on for the next 4 years is to continue to work with the Chamber of Commerce to develop a more diverse economy. We will create additional affordable housing opportunities, support our fishermen, and develop offshore wind energy. We'll develop new revenues so that we can maintain local control of police and fire resources, repave our streets to acceptable standards, maintain clean public restrooms and weekend trash pickup, ensure that the development of the Morro Bay Power Plant meets community needs and provides additional revenue for the city. And we are developing a fast-track business permitting process to make Morro Bay more business friendly. I would thank you for your vote.
Thank you. Laurel Barton, followed by John Heading.
Hello, my name is Laurel Barton, and I'm running for the Morro Bay City Council because I want to use my previous government and civic experience to help our city through these challenging times. I will bring my 35-year career working for cities and school districts as an administrator and grant writer to the job on day one. I have served on both the Visalia City Council, the school board, and also as a state Senate fellow in Sacramento. So I've learned what it takes to get things done in public service. I earned my bachelor's degree in plant science from CSU Fresno, which I've put to use in volunteering for Morro Bay and Bloom. My master's degree is in public administration from the University of San Francisco. And I'm also the proud mom of 2 adult sons that I adopted when they were 4.5 and 6 years old. I am running for city council because I'm passionate about Morro Bay. I want to use my experience to preserve our city's unique character while also executing a plan to accomplish the city's long-range goals. My vision for the next 4 years is completion of the water reclamation facility on schedule and without any ratepayer increases, ensure balanced operational and capital budgets, pursue advanced revenue opportunities, and seek funding to potentially include grants for improvements to our aging infrastructure, workforce housing, and internet connectivity. I love living in Morro Bay and the many friends I've made here volunteering in AAUW's Adopt a Pole program and the Networking Newcomers Club and Morro Bay and Bloom. If elected, I commit to do my homework for every decision I make, viewing every decision through the lens of how it would affect both citizens and local businesses, and make recommendations based on the best interests of our community as a whole. I promise to be your voice on our city council. I look forward to hearing from you today and answering your questions, receiving your confidence in my ability to serve our city, and earning your vote. Please visit me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. John Heading, followed by Betty Winholtz.
Yes, good evening. My name is Dr. John Heading. I am currently the mayor of Morro Bay. I grew up in California and had the good fortune to go to the University of the Pacific, where I earned my Doctor of Pharmacy degree and also a Master's in Healthcare Administration degree with an emphasis in finance. I began my career in 1975, serving as a hospital pharmacy director in a number of facilities, where I was responsible for budgets totaling about $20 million. In 1990, I was moved up to the position of COO and then became a CEO of a number of hospitals in the Central Valley, where I managed over 2,000 employees and a budget greater than $200 million. I have extensive, not only large organizational experience, but when I moved to the coast with my wife and 1 daughter in 2005, I opened up 2 retail pharmacies and became an entrepreneur, operated Cambria Drug in Cambria and Morro Bay Drug in Morro Bay until my retirement in 2019 when I sold both of those organizations. As your mayor, it's been really a pleasure to serve you. Like you, I know Morro Bay is a special place to live and to call home. My wife, Sue, and I are grateful to live here with our family, including not only 1 daughter and a son-in-law, but 2 grandchildren currently in school in Morro Bay. I've had a productive first term as mayor. Under my leadership, the city began construction of our water reclamation facility that will provide a new source of clean water for the city for generations to come. And I relentlessly advocated in Washington, D.C. and secured low interest financing, saving debt service over $30 million for the city of Morro Bay. As your mayor, my focus has been on the city's long-term financial health. In my 6 years on the city council, the past 2 as mayor, we cut wasteful spending, balanced budgets, increased our financial reserves, and our pension liability. I would
Thank you,
be
Mr.
honored to
Heading.
receive your vote. Thank you.
Ms. Betty Wendholtz, followed by Richard Sadowski.
I'm sorry, Ms. Winholtz, your microphone is muted.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm running for city council because I am tired of being taken advantage of, and I am tired of our residents and our ratepayers being taken advantage of by this current city council, the incumbents. I say this and for illustration, there was an article in the Estero Bay News lately that referred to a decision the council made back in July. This council is purchasing, or actually has purchased, a piece of property that we had previously leased as an easement to access the sewer plant property that we've already purchased. But this new piece of property is smaller than the original piece of property, and yet we are paying twice as much for it. To me, this is a fleecing of the ratepayers, and it's not acceptable. In addition, I think that what I have offered to the city is that back in 2002, I was elected to the city council and I won by 12 votes. 4 years later, when I ran again, I was the top vote getter. I believe this is because of my service, my hard work, and my fiscal responsibility. The council over that 8 years successfully addressed the 2007 recession that the whole nation went through. We also began the plans for what was the precursor to the current wastewater water reclamation facility that we are currently trying to build out at South Bay Boulevard. I think that term, however, wastewater or water reclamation facility, is a misnomer, because we have just learned recently, that has been revealed, that the injection wells will not be producing 800 new acres of water to help us become independent, but rather will be used to protect us against saltwater intrusion. So these kinds of items, I think, are unacceptable, and I appreciate your listening tonight.
Thank you. Richard Sadowski.
Hi, my name is Richard Sadowski, and I'm running for Morro Bay City Council. I'm a mechanical engineer by profession and hold a certified sewer collection and conveyance system professional certification. I'm also a former planning commissioner, and I sat on the Water Reclamation Facility Citizen Advisory Committee. I moved to SLOCO County in 1981, where I worked building launch pads at the Vandenberg Air Force Base for the National Security Council, and then later on I built the launch pads for Space Shuttle Vandenberg. One of my favorite jobs that I ever had was working at an aerospace research and development facility, where I was the lead test operations engineer testing scramjets for the National Aerospace Plane X-30 project. I have sailed to the South Pacific after working in aerospace, and then later on in 1994, I opened up a business in Pismo Beach. It was the first coffee shop known as the Black Pearl. I've also worked restoring houses and building custom homes. One of the last homes I built was at Ragged Point in Big Sur. It was known as the Cliff House. I moved to Morro Bay in 2003 and worked for the Cayuga Sanitary District, where I was involved in public works improvement projects, where I replaced sewer mains and built new lift stations. I worked closely with Coastal Commission, Central Coast Regional Water Quality Control Boards, engineers, and contractors. I have volunteered several hundred hours writing reports and analyzing the Morro Bay's condition of their Morro Bay sewer collection systems. And my call to action for you all is to vote on November 3rd. Vote Sadowski for council. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll proceed to the questions. The first candidate will be Robert Red Davis, followed by Laurel Barton. So the first question is, do you support staying the course and continuing construction of the city's water reclamation facility at the South Bay site? Why is this important? If no, how will you mitigate the legal and financial exposure the ratepayers may incur? Mr. Davis?
I absolutely support continuing with the water reclamation facility at its current location. We analyzed 17 different locations and we came up with the one that was acceptable to residents and that would meet Coastal Commission requirements. We have invested a great deal of money so far in pursuing the project. The essential part of this project to me is that it will produce clean, drinkable water for the future. Morro Bay is in one of the driest portions of California, which is a state that suffers from drought 7 out of 10 years. The price of drinking water is priceless when you run out. We have secured low interest loans and we have begun moving dirt, laying pipeline. We are on schedule to meet the time schedule order that the Regional Water Quality Control Board gave to us in order that we can produce effluents that meet their standards for today. So to me, staying the course is vital and essential for more.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Ms. Barton, followed by John Heading. Laurel?
Unmuting myself.
There you go. Thank you.
Sorry. I too feel strongly about staying the course on the water reclamation facility. Having the community look for so many different sites and finally arrive at this one and have great funding available for it. The grants that are actually loans that were made for this project are very low interest loans. And so it's important to stay the course and keep those loans because that's part of the overall financial picture for the project. It's well underway. About 24 million, I believe, has been spent on getting to the point where it is now. So there would be no point in stopping because the money would have to be paid back and the ground restored. It's a very important project for Morro Bay and it needs to continue.
Thank you. Mr. Heading, followed by Betty Winholtz.
Thank you. I absolutely support continuing forward with the current WRF project. The project as it is now has been able to achieve, because of its innovation and water reclamation components, one of 12 cities in the nation were selected 2 years ago to receive an EPA or WIFIA loan at a low interest rate. When we looked at rates and initially calculated what it might cost our ratepayers, we made the assumption that the cost of that money from the EPA would be somewhere around 3%. We have had the unprecedented good fortune to achieve an interest rate of 0.83%, which will save approximately $30 to $40 million over the life of the project for our ratepayers. In addition, the remainder of the project will be funded by the State Revolving Fund, or the SRF Water Fund, by the state of California. We've received a $5 million grant, and in addition to that, we've also received low interest loans totaling 1.2%, well below our assumption at 3%. If we stopped now, it would cost the city over $40 million to pause and or head in a different direction. Rates would go up, lawsuits would ensue, environmental permits would have to be renewed and redone, and it would be a major impact on our city that would be negative with regard to ratepayers. Thank you.
Ms. Winholtz, followed by Mr. Sadowski.
Thank you. I've been an activist speaking before city council for the last 10 years since I got off council. And I've done that because I have an institutional memory of many things that have been done. More so maybe than, not more so, but probably longer than many city employees and certainly council members. And what I have learned over time is that the kinds of statements that the incumbents tout about this project are comments that we've heard for the last few years. But if you look in the Estero Bay News or in the new, not the New Times recently, but you will see that there is recent information that shows that we are not going to be recycling water. And if we are, in what year? Because it's been at least till 2024 or longer before there will be any water coming out of that. They have to get permission from the Drinking Waters Department of California, which will take amount of testing, and they have not given permission for that. We have not even acquired all the land that we need for this project in terms of piping and the injection wells, and now they've changed the location of the injection wells. So my ultimate question is, at what price do we stay where we are? And I think for me, I am willing to sacrifice $25 to $40 million if I'm going to save $100 million for the ratepayers.
Thank you. Mr. Sadowski.
Hi. Could you repeat the question, please, and restart the clock?
Of course. Do you support staying the course and continuing construction of the city's water reclamation facility at the South Bay site? Why is this important? If no, how will you mitigate the legal and financial exposure the ratepayers may incur?
First of all, I've been involved with this project since its inception in 2003 while I was a staff member at the Cayuga Sanitary District. I had met with the regional board in a private meeting regarding this. At that time, it was set up to be an upgrade. Now, a couple of statements. First of all, the reclamation part is a misnomer. When I was sitting on the Water Reclamation Facility Citizens Advisory Committee, at that time, we had stated that we had looked at the reclamation portion, and that was challenging because there was no clear direction of what would work. Currently, the plant is not a reclamation plant, and we have no clear plan that way. The other thing is I would be in favor of putting a quick pause, especially with the sewer collection and conveyance system being pushed forward with 40 plus change orders and $5 to $7 million over budget. What we have is a current council that's in over their heads, and they don't have the experience or the knowledge to get this right.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss.
Well, thank you for the question. I think I would echo some of the things that Mr. Sadowski said. I do think a pause is appropriate. I do think that we were promised that the project would not exceed 126 million. It is now at 131 million. However, the conveyance was budgeted at 27 million. The low bid was 31 million, and we were supposed to award it on September 22nd, which of course has passed. So we are not on time, and we are not on budget. And so that does concern me. I think what I would do is reinstitute the advisory board that Mr. Zadowski referred to, get some volunteer experts, and for us to look at what we can do to make what we have either more affordable or to look at what alternatives we have. And at the bottom line being to reduce the cost overall so that we can reduce our rates as was promised to us 2 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll start with Ms. Barton, followed by Mr. Heading. Given the existing sewer plant is not meeting current water quality standards, and the plant does not have a fully redundant backup for critical systems. What is the financial exposure to the taxpayers, and what can be done to protect the residents? Mrs. Barton.
That is not something that I know a whole lot about, and so I don't have a good answer for that. The old plant is as old as I am, and it's certainly had its many years of good service, but whether it will last until we finish the new plant, I don't know. I assume that it would, and so I just don't have a whole lot to add to discussing that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Heading, followed by Ms. Winholtz.
Thanks. Could you repeat the question, please?
Of course. Given the existing sewer plant is not meeting current water quality standards, and the plant does not have fully redundant backup for critical systems, what is the financial exposure to the taxpayers, and what can be done to protect the residents?
The financial exposure is significant, and what can be done is just exactly what you alluded to with your first question, which would be to move forward and complete the existing water reclamation facility. A number of candidates in their statements earlier refer to what I will call anecdotes that are just not true. Indirect potable reuse for the new plant has been proven. We know that we can reclaim water. That project is currently part of the design, and it is the portion of the project that has allowed us to receive the low interest funding from the EPA and the SRF Water Fund. We must move forward expeditiously because we're under a time order from the state of California to complete this project. And if we pause, stop, or don't move forward, not only will it jeopardize a number of issues in terms of finances, costing the ratepayers significantly more money, but will expose us to significant litigation from engaged contractors. My concern is that any pause, any stop now would be extremely damaging to this community and very costly. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Winholtz, followed by Mr. Sadowski.
I have a different take on the comments that were just made. I believe that going to taking the pause that's been mentioned and continuing to operate our current plant and even upgrading that plant is cheaper or less expensive than continuing with this plant that seems to be a bit of a money pit. And I say that because we know that the current plant can be upgraded. It can be retrofitted, particularly once Cayucas goes offline at the end of the year. We know that we will not automatically, but close to whatever needs to be done. It will not be difficult to meet secondary standards. So the water board will not be of an issue for us. What is an issue for me is that we continue to pay for this conveyance piping system that would not have to happen. We wouldn't have to do 2 new lift stations. Those are costly. We would not have to continue dealing with the landslide, and that kind of area does not have to be fixed back in any certain way. That would be at our discretion because we own the property. What could happen is that, and what Mr. Caceres has said at city council meetings, is that all contractors are on an at-will type of contract, and they will, in essence, just stop if we ask them to stop. And the only one that isn't is the Fianco.
Thank you. Mr. Sadowski, followed by Mr. Weiss.
Yeah, the question says that we don't have redundancy and that we don't meet current standards. The current standards generally are met. And then when we get off Cayucas has about 25% of our flow. So our flows will drop about 25%. So that's going to be even easier for us to meet any what Regarding the redundancy, the current plant is not what we have here is a plant that's 3 miles away, turning a gravity system into something that now we're pumping toxins 3 miles through our city to get it up to a place 3 miles away. So the redundancy isn't a big factor as far as the current plant, but more of a factor where we're pumping the sewage. Now, the other thing is Cayucas. Cayucas owns 40%, not only 40% of the plant, they own 40% of our sewer, some of our sewer system, like this 60/40 sewer main. And I would make it a priority to fix that sewer line that's polluting our drinking water aquifer. That's been proven it's polluting with sewage right now. That should be the priority, and address that issue.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss, followed by Mr. Davis.
I would agree with many of the comments with Council candidate Sadowski, because he is an expert, and I appreciate what he has had to say. I did meet with the water board, and they don't care where the plant is located. It is true, it does not meet standards some of the time, but it is a small part of the time. Now, when Cayucas goes offline, 25% less, it will be a different story. Filter as a option might fix that. You know, so there are different ways we can address this. We have a new head unit, which will continue to be used into perpetuity. That is something where one of the pipes we're planning to put in 4 pipes on Quintana Road. One of those will return back to the head unit. I think it's important that we talk to Cayucas. They are going to be going offline in 3 months, and I believe that those conversations will be very fruitful. I do believe that repairing the leaky pipes that we have had 3 218s for 2007, 2015, 2018, which go right into our water wells, will provide us with clean drinking water. And I think that's a fair use of our loan, which is to provide water reclamation, as well as a possibility of looking at why we dismantled our desal plant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Yes, the solution, of course, is to continue to build the water reclamation facility and to complete it as soon as possible. As to Ms. Winholt's statement that the plant will meet current standards once Cayucas leaves, that's simply not true. The plant was built in 1953 to standards of 120 BOD and 70 TSS, which are solids. And the current standard is 30/30. We cannot meet those standards as the plant is currently configured without significant upgrade. The city requested an upgrade at that location in 2013. And Ms. Winholtz may remember that when the city asked for a new plant at the existing site, she told the board, "We ask for your denial." As to Mr. Sadowski's claim that wastewater is leaking into the city's wells, he should remember that the Water Quality Control Board in May 2015 met after testing and determined that sewage is not the predominant source of nitrate in the city's wells, that it is in fact from agricultural upstream. And I think Mr. Sadowski should remember, because he provided public comment at that meeting. So the answer is we need to keep building.
Thank you. The next question, Mr. Heading will answer first, followed by Ms. Winholtz. What is your vision for repurposing the old sewer plant property and the old power plant property, which will benefit the community?
Thank you for the question. With regard to the old power plant, there are a number of issues. The previous owner, Dynegy, has been acquired by Vistra Energy, a new player to the community. They have approached Morro Bay with an intent to look at building a lithium-ion battery project here, cost of about $200 million on a piece of the parcel. They initially submitted plans for that, and there are confidential negotiations going on unfortunately in closed session that I can't allude to, that have to do with the original contract with Vistra that ties the plant to a $1 payoff by the city. That is, the city has an option in 2035 to literally buy the plant or buy the remainder parcel for $1. Of course, that puts the city in a precarious position because of the amount of money estimated for cleanup, which is about $40 million. And so we are working expeditiously with Vista to try to bring this project forward and also to look at spinning off the remainder parcel for redevelopment. With regard to the existing plant, that is something that will have to be discussed in partnership with Cayucas, who is a part owner with us. And at this time, no plans have been made for the repurposing of that site. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Winholt, followed by Mr. Sadowski.
Thank you. So regarding the power plant, I'll start with that also. It's difficult for me to say what a private owner should do on their property. And Vista is the owner, and they should decide what they want to do. That being said, the community has a vested interest in what goes on there, and we would hope that we would be able to work together. Regarding the lithium batteries, the newspaper has stated that that project has been taken off the table by Vistra. So unless there's something going on in closed session, as alluded to by Mr. Heading, as far as the public knows, that is no longer a project. I believe that regarding the current sewer plant location, if we can continue to utilize that for a few years as we decide how and where we want to build our permanent sewer plant, I think that that would be a good use of the property, because certainly back in 2013, when the Coastal Commission told us, okay, we'll deny your project because you, the city, through the mayor at that time, requested that we deny the project, then we will not entertain you coming back with some kind of permanent structure there for all the environmental reasons that we have found out and that you have declared to us. So with this possibility that we could upgrade, because I did say that that's what we would do, not just, you know, we can't just walk in.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
ask
I
you to wrap
apologize.
up.
I wasn't watching
Thank
the
you.
timer.
It's okay. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sadowski, followed by Mr. Weiss.
Regarding the power plant property, when I've talked to certain people, the number I got for cleanup is around 30 million. And what I would suggest is that collaborating with a company like Vistra, maybe working also with Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, the university, in organizing some kind of a collaboration for that piece of property. Regarding the current wastewater treatment plant property, I have talked to people in Cayucas Sanitary District, and this council has not even entertained a meeting with them for years. So what's going to happen there is the city of Morro Bay is basically looking at, the Cayucas owns 40% of that piece of property. So that's going to have to be some good dialogue between Cayucas Sanitary District and the new city council before anything can be entertained there.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss, followed by Mr. Davis.
All right, thank you very much for that question. I think that I would agree with some of the comments that were made by, again, Mr. Sadowski, relating to some options for the power plant. So I won't repeat what he said, but I think looking at that partnership is important, and also the fact that, as far as I know, the battery option is been taken off the table, at least temporarily. As far as the water wells and the drinking water, there was sucralose, so that does I know that doesn't relate to that question, but I think it's important to understand that the existing plant could be made with a filter viable. That's not to say that we can't continue where we are, but I can't see where we can do it and stay on budget and not have a fourth 218, which would be problematic for our citizens. I think that, as was noted, it was Mayor Irons that asked the council or asked the Coastal Commission to deny the project. And that was over the objection of Cayucas, who asked that they withdraw the application. I think we put ourselves in a pickle. We also, for some reason, decided to dismantle our desal plant, which is a viable use of drinking water, which we had when there were some concerns about state water. And so I thank you very much for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Mr. Davis.
Thank you. Our city manager has had extensive conversations with his counterpart at Vistra Energy and conveyed that the city is anxious to develop the property, but that it has to be a planned development, that that city residents need to be involved in forming a vision of what that property will look like. And Vistra and the city and the residents will all work together to develop that vision. As for the existing water treatment plant, I have spoken to Robert Enns and Rick Kuhn myself about the future of that plant. They understand that we are in a partnership and they are willing to work in a partnership with the city or to negotiate an end to the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barton.
Thank you. This is an exciting project to contemplate. It's the city controls most of the land south of where 41 crosses, so that's quite a bit of acreage there. It's likely that it would be a public-private kind of a partnership project because it is so very large and would require a great deal of funding to put it together. Some of the old PG&E area is private land, so that means of having to work together, city and landowner, and some of the things that I think would probably pop up in conversations with community partners would be to have this be some sort of a multi-purpose kind of a project that might include housing, commercial, maybe open space, and perhaps even something like the replacement for the aquarium could end up there and have some more room. So it's a big, exciting project.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the fourth question, and Ms. Winholtz, you'll answer first, followed by Mr. Sadowski. Offshore wind energy development off the coast of Morro Bay has been proposed. Do you support this type of development?
The wind industry is is new to California, and there are actually 3 spots along the coast that are being considered. Very northern California, Diablo nuclear power plant, as well as off of us are actually Cayucas a little bit further to the north, but would come into our plant. That is a decision actually that is not ours. It is a decision that will be made at the federal level, and it's a number of years off. So to depend on that as a source of income, I think is naive. And so I think what we need to do is focus more on other activities that can bring the city revenue. In addition to that, Vistra had, shortly after the city negotiated with the wind energy, Castle Rock, to support them in their proposal, Vistra came out and said they were interested in wind too. So it seemed a little quick or short-sighted, I believe, on the part of the council to jump in with Castle Rock without actually speaking first to the owners of the property where the power would be coming into. And my concern through the last 2 or 3 questions that we've talked about is the city's relationship with Vistra, since we are currently in court cases on eminent domain with them.
Thank you. Mr. Sadowski, followed by Mr. Weiss.
Yeah, I kind of want to follow up with what Ms. Windholtz said. I've been going to Ocean Protection Council meetings for the last 15 years. And I've actually spoken with the lead scientist on representing the state of California on this issue. And he basically stated that state is focusing on the northern area for wind farm and wind generation, offshore wind generation. And there's some challenges for the wind farm out here in Estero Bay, outside of Estero Bay, that we'd have to work out with the DoD, for instance, and others. But we're at, you know, I was told that if memory serves, that we're about 10 years out. So it's a little premature to be wondering about this issue. It's we have more pressing issues here.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss, followed by Mr. Davis.
Hi, Weiss.
Weiss, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. I did speak to Alma, and she was the one who was invited to speak to the community about wind farms. I did have her card, so I did call her. And she said it was many, many years away if they would entertain doing it at all, for many of the reasons that have been enumerated already. I like the idea of having renewable energy. I'm not sure that the plan where it can be visible from Hearst Castle will get passed by the state of California. And that is their #1 park from the standpoint of activity. But if we could do it in a way where we aren't in the view shed of Hearst Castle, and we have, and I know we would have probably some way of mitigating the fishermen, because I believe that was something that was done earlier. I would support that option. I did so 2 years ago, and so my position is largely unchanged on the wind farm. I believe I've addressed, and that was the question, was relating to the wind farm. Is that correct?
Yes.
Then I'm completed with my answer.
Thank you. Ms. Barton, followed by Mr. Heading.
The wind project that's been proposed here it's kind of exciting. I would agree that it's a ways off, but it's exciting in that it is a form of renewable clean energy, and something that it's windy over the ocean, and so that it's wind that's always around. So it has some real pluses to it. My understanding is that our location was selected because we have a connection somewhere near the PG&E plant. We have a connection to the electricity grid, so that the electricity that would be produced by the wind farm could be fed into the grid right near Morro Bay. And it would also make it possible to perhaps use some of the energy from that as a low-cost form of electricity to offset some of the costs of running the water reclamation plant. So it definitely has some good things going for it. I think it probably needs some more research. I've read about perhaps the blades on the turbines not perhaps being subject to corrosion from the ocean air. And so I think there's more work to be done on it, but it's an exciting concept.
Thank you. Mr. Heading.
Thank you for the question. Yes, I do support the proposed offshore wind project. I've been fortunate to serve on the interagency task force, a federal task force of over 75 individuals for the last 4 years, working through the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management as this project potentially has evolved. At present, as Ms. Winholt stated, there are not 3 sites being considered. Diablo is not a site that's being looked at because it has DOD or defense issues. The remainder 2 sites, including Humboldt and Morro Bay, are very much on the table. The main issue has been a concern by the Department of the Navy, who has indicated that that water is strategic. However, with the help of Congressman Carbajal, who's been very active in this, we believe that there's a way forward through the DOD to carve out an area of approximately 200 to 300 square miles off of Morro Bay, 15 to 25 miles offshore, that would provide for 3 gigabytes of energy into Morro Bay. Vistra has nothing to do with the bidding of the project. I'm not sure where Ms. Winholz was going there. The grid connection is PG&E. They have been informed and contacted and very much are supportive of this. We need good, clean, green energy for the coast, and this could be a huge economic boom within the next 5 years for the city of Morro Bay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So now we're going to shift gears a little,
Really?
and Mr. Sadowski, you will answer first, followed by Mr. Weiss. And the question is, what is your position on Measure E20? If you're voting yes, will you commit to designating those funds exclusively for the purposes outlined in the measure? Or if you're voting no, how will you increase revenue to the general fund to support essential city services? Mr. Sadowski.
I'm against Measure E, the sales tax. I think it's a knee-jerk reaction from the city council. We need to clean up our own finances before we start burdening the lowest income people and the business community with another tax or a TOT tax. I'm against all that, all those taxes. Regarding what I would do is, if I was on the city council, I would definitely take a closer look. I think there's other areas where we could do cutbacks. And one of the things that I would consider if I got on the council would be taking Measure Q and increasing it to from half a cent to 1 cent, and then also working on getting the water rates down to what the EPA, right now in Morro Bay, we're paying twice what the EPA and the federal national standard is for our income. And that would be one of the first places that I would look and try to get our water rates down to basically an average where we're in the range where the federal government recommends.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss, followed by Mr. Davis.
I don't know if Mr. Davis wanted to comment about the wind farm. I think he was overlooked. Do you want to do that, or do you want me to proceed with the question?
Your microphone is muted.
Mr. Davis, did I pass you up on the wind farm? I apologize.
Yes, ma'am, you did, but I
apologize.
I don't hold a grudge.
Thank you. Would you like to comment? Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Would you like to comment on the wind?
Thank you, John. Yes, I think that developing wind energy is critical to the future of California's energy picture as we move away from petroleum-based production. Solar is expanding rapidly, but it only works in the daytime. Wind energy works at night, so the two can balance each other. As Mayor Heading said, he and I are on the council subcommittee working with Alla Weinstein and Castle Wind, also with our commercial fishermen's organization, and with regulatory agencies. Morro Bay has a great opportunity to be in the center of this new industry because we have favorable offshore wind resources. We have harbor facilities that can serve as a headquarters for operations, maintenance, and training of a wind farm operator. We can reuse the power plant and structures. We have direct connectivity to a high voltage PG&E substation. We have a local fleet of fishermen and their boats to provide transportation to and from the wind farm for construction, maintenance, and operations. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. So Mr. Weiss, would you like me to reread the question on Measure E20?
No, I think I recall.
Okay, thanks for getting me on track.
Yeah, no worries. I am, first of all, Scott Collins, our city manager, put out a report about 3 days ago, approximately. And he basically said that if Measure the 1% tax does not pass, we will be short about $1 million, I believe. And if that is true, the measure that is being proposed is supposed to generate $2 million. Now, part of the reason I think that there is less need is because we have a lot of people coming to Morro Bay. We are a very attractive place, even though we're not advertising for it. I don't support raising TOT in any way, shape, or form, to be very clear. What I would suggest as a possibility, if we can't find sufficient cuts or if there aren't sufficient revenues, would be to consider a Measure Q2, which would be a 0.5% tax that would be earmarked for police and fire and roads and would have a sunset. And that would take care and through the pandemic. So I do think that our first responders are extremely important, and I support them, and I feel that that is an option that should be on the table as a way to balance our $1 million expected shortfall if the measure doesn't pass, which I don't have control over. The voters do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, would you like me to reread the question?
I think the question is, do you support Measure E?
Correct.
Okay. To me, this is the most important decision that city voters have faced since incorporation. I believe that this vote will determine whether we survive as a full-service city. Chamber board members agree with me, and that is what they are telling their members. That's the business community. Since COVID began, we dipped into our emergency reserve fund for more than $1 million to finish up last fiscal year. We're using an additional $1 million to balance our budget this fiscal year. At the rate we are using that money, we will run out of reserves by the end of fiscal year 22-23. We have, in the past 2 years, reduced our staffing by 11.5 positions. We have cut as far as we can cut. If we run out of money in our general fund emergency reserve, the only place left to cut is police, fire, emergency medical, and to me, that is unhealthy, unviable. It makes us no longer a city. So I support this with all my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Laurel Barton, followed by Mr. Heading.
I too support Measure E. I think it's a very important move for the city. There have been many, many cuts. People have given up pay raises. We've lost a lot of staff. Some of the things that make a city are the positions, for instance, in the Parks and Rec department that serve seniors and that serve kids and after-school programs. Some of those things are gone now. We don't have those, and so I think it's very important that we pass Measure E. Something that people don't realize sometimes, one of the most important things to people in Morro Bay, as different surveys have shown, is having 24/7 police and fire and the emergency medical. And so far, the cuts have not touch those services. But if we have to keep on going, if Measure E doesn't pass, that will be the next thing, because those services make up about half of the budget. And so there's it's just a very important measure to pass.
Thank you. Mr. Heading, followed by Ms. Winholtz.
Thank you. I absolutely support Measure E20, which is a 1 cent sales tax increase that would protect police and fire services. Prior to COVID-19 hitting the city, if you look at our 10-year projections, the city on an annual basis would have been upside down or underwater, so to speak, to the tune of about $500,000, and at the end of 10 years, about $4 million per year in terms of losses to the general fund. When COVID-19 hit at the end of this last fiscal year, we lost $1 million worth of revenue due to COVID-19. The city reacted very quickly, as you know, and in April instituted not only significant cuts in salary rates across the board, and now the fire folks have come along as well, but also reduced FTEs. If you look at the full-time equivalents, or the number of employees employed by the city 10 years ago, it was about 104. Prior to COVID-19, it was 99. We had 99 employees doing more complex work and more duties and responsibilities. Now we have post-COVID 12 fewer, which puts us at about 88 or 87 full-time equivalents. There's absolutely nowhere to go in terms of cutting, except for looking at things like police and fire. I disagree with the statements made by Mr. Weiss with regard to what Mr. Collins has indicated. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Winholtz.
Excuse me. Thank you. I also do not support Measure E as it is written. There is no sunset clause in it, and there is no dedication to police, fire, or first responders. It is to go to the general fund, which means it can be spent on almost anything other than the sewer and water funds. So I don't see how this money is protected to help what is being advertised that it will help. It can be helped, and it will help in a number of areas, but not where the people are saying they want the protection. I would, if I could, I would make the cuts to the 5 and the 10% salary reductions that have been, excuse me for fumbling for a second here. I would make those cuts permanent because they're only good through the end of the year. I would make them good through the period of COVID. I know that that's not a pleasant thing to say or have to do, but in light of where we are, I believe, and in the situation that our community is in, I think we're happy to have employees. I think employees are happy to have their jobs, and I'm sorry that they will have to tighten their belt. But during hard times, that's what you do to get by until the better times come. This is what we did in 2007 and 2008. We tightened the budget. We did zero-based budgeting, which is something we could do again. I would consider moving all of the political offices that are on Shasta Street up to the community center. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next question. Mr. Weiss, you'll answer first, followed by Mr. Davis. What are ideas for attracting new business to Morro Bay that would diversify and increase our local economy?
When I was on the Chamber of Commerce, 2006, 7, and 8, and 11, we had a forum with business leaders and citizens that met weekly. And we discussed the very issues like you're asking about, to find solutions, to find ways that we can be more efficient. And we brought in staff members from the city, and we addressed those questions, and those were very helpful. They did not violate the Brown Act. They were a public setting, and it was an opportunity for a dialogue to create ideas. Obviously, we do have some blight. I think we have some rezoning issues that could be addressed for affordable housing so that our employers can keep employees. and there are different ideas that that I have in mind, but I think that largely the business forum, I think, is an opportunity. Also, another opportunity is to look to figure out ways to have our existing businesses expand, reduce their cost by making government more efficient, and make their businesses more profitable. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, followed by Ms. Barton. Mr. Davis, you're muted.
Rookie mistake, sorry.
That's all right.
I are actively engaged with Castle Wind to bring clean offshore wind energy to Morro Bay, and that will provide jobs for our residents, especially for our fishermen. We're working in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce to offer opportunity sites for development and to improve and streamline our permitting process to facilitate development. We have expanded the cannabis license here in Morro Bay to include adult use in order to increase revenue to the city. And we are also looking for opportunities for additional cannabis operations, such as testing, a clean, which is a clean business. I am personally connected to REACH, the Regional Economic Development Organization, to help create additional housing that will bring more young working families and service employees to live in Morro Bay. Affordable workforce housing is essential. It is the key to attracting new industry, and I'm committed to making that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barton, followed by Mr. Heading.
I look forward to working closely with the Chamber of Commerce on economic development efforts and build on the outreach that they have going on so far. I would like to identify businesses that are based here and want to stay here, but are facing challenges. I think it's a better use of resources to support existing businesses and help them thrive rather than always looking for something new. We have several underutilized spaces in each of the 4 areas, 4 business district areas in Morro Bay that with creative reuse could meet the needs of a growing business. I'm committed to working with landlords to encourage investment. Some sectors to be encouraged would be in healthcare, especially in elder care and memory care to match our current population. Outdoor sports companies who seek small to medium-sized manufacturing facilities could also be approached. Marine-based research facilities that need a location close to the bay and the ocean could be worth exploring. And green economy jobs like wind energy, as we discussed earlier, I would support those.
Thank you. Mr. Heading, followed by Ms. Winholt.
Thank you for the question. In the short term, in terms of diversifying the economy, as mentioned by Councilmember Davis, we are in a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, who has been engaged significantly at looking at a number of opportunity sites, including the redevelopment of the Bank of America site. And we do have a couple of developers that are interested in looking at that as a potential project. Additionally, we have implemented a number of things, including let out an RFP for the Marketplace Plaza site on the Embarcadero, which potentially could increase TOT revenues to the city to the tune of $1 to $2 million per year when that comes to fruition. We've got a couple of new boutique hotels that are in the works, one at Rose's Landing that is about halfway completed. The second on the Embarcadero is the redevelopment of the Off the Hook site, which will proceed soon in terms of that being redeveloped. But I must key in on the issue that Councilmember Davis raised, and that is workforce housing. We are beginning a partnership with the school to look at the school district, to look at the existing site where the middle school, the old middle school was many years ago. There's a potential for 250 units of affordable housing to be built there. The school district is very interested in that, with a priority for at least 1/3 of those homes going to Morro Bay teachers and also local workforce in Morro Bay. That opportunity is significant. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Winholtz, followed by Mr. Sadowski.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I will. How can the city, what are your ideas for attracting new business to Morro Bay that would diversify and increase our local economy?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I said during the chamber comments last week that I believe we have a lot of strong businesses in Morro Bay. By strong, I mean larger, that have been homegrown. And by reference, I mean things like Sunshine Health Food Store, which has expanded from 1 storefront to 4. The All Good Manufacturing down on Market Street. I don't know if people are aware of the Wool Company out on North Morro Bay. The recent expansion of the guy who runs the vegetable market out in North Main Street. I think what Morro Bay, the city, can do is kind of stay out of people's ways when they come up with good ideas, and then help those that are already here to expand. I don't see it as the city's responsibility to bring in business. I see the city's responsibility is to provide police, fire, streets, water, and sewer. And as we can help, maybe not partner, but support the chamber as they do those things, because I believe that's their job. And I would encourage them to look for those. It's a hard time to say that right now because of COVID. So I'm not sure the reality of doing that. And that's why I think I would like to look at our homegrown places.
Thank you. Mr. Sadowski.
To bring in new and diverse businesses right now, people we need to teach and re-innovate how we're going to do business, and a lot of people are doing business out of home right now, so we need to get people the resources to do that. I believe that, let's be clear, we're in a climate crisis and a pandemic. So one of the things to address the climate crisis, I'm currently working in collaboration with Cal Poly University on a M-Beam project, which is the Morro Bay Estuary Air Monitoring Project. And what I would suggest is to bring in academia and work with the academics and other, partner up with some of the businesses and bring in innovation and collaboration to addressing the climate crisis we're in. One of the beauties that we have in Morro Bay is that we have all the ingredients. We have a Morro Bay estuary, the eelgrass, we have a harbor, we have the golf course that we could all kind of work in and address this thing. And that's one of the main reasons, if I get elected, I would put in lace that all into the general plan update.
Thank you. So the next question, Mr. Davis will start, followed by Ms. Barton. And that question is, what is your vision for Morro Bay over the next 5 years? Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, you're muted.
I'm sorry, Shelley. I'm going to get this right. My vision is that we have a balanced budget, that we have a well-paid police force, fire department. We have a vital recreation services that we have caught up on paying off our pension obligation, that we have new housing in place that is affordable by young working families, people who are buying their first home, that our service employees can afford to live in Morro Bay and don't have to commute. My vision is that we continue to be an attractive place for visitors to come from all economic strata, that we are a destination for people who seek beauty, recreation, and services. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barton, followed by Mr. Heading.
In the next 5 years, I would love to see Morro Bay be on solid financial footing, that we would have available the best possible internet connections. We're having a lot of people moving here who are leaving other areas where they've had a lot of technology and perhaps they're working from home, or could be new business possibilities that need faster internet to transact their business. I just think it would be good for us to have the fastest possible internet here. The issue of affordable housing, which has been mentioned several times tonight, is an important one, both for growth as well as for trying to to have a more of a variety of people living here. One of the school site was mentioned, but also one of the other things we have going for us is the possibility of putting in what are called ADUs, accessory dwelling units. And that's a way to also densify housing so that we can have more places for more people. And I'd also like to see us become a destination perhaps for kind of maybe small to medium sized conferences, some sort of a conference facility, and that would help feed people to the hotels. So those are my ideas for the next few years.
Thank you. Mr. Heading,
Yes.
followed by Ms. Winholt.
Thank you for the question. First, I would want to have completed the general plan, local coastal plan update in order to facilitate the development of the opportunity sites that I mentioned previously. A redeveloped Embarcadero through the implementation of a harbor district that could meet the capital needs of improving not only the cleanliness, but the look and the infrastructure along the Embarcadero, that we would have a completed water reclamation facility providing clean recycled water to our community at sustainable rates, that we would have a master plan executed with Vistra for the development of the current parcel owned by Vistra on the vacated site, that we will have replaced our depleted reserves due to COVID-19 through appropriate fiduciary management of our finances by increasing our reserve level above and beyond where it is now to approximately 40%, that we would also have vital recreational services, a clean bay, and we would have a thriving community for tourists to come and enjoy the beautiful nature that surrounds us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Winholt, followed by Mr. Sadowski.
There's very little that anyone could argue with all the ideas that have been presented by everyone. And they're very creative, some of them. I think my interest would be in figuring out the feeling of the town, that we're getting along, that our neighborhoods are peaceful, that we aren't at odds with each other because of vacation rentals, that we continue to have a clean bay, so that the bird festival and others who come here for nature will continue to appreciate that. I would see that we pay some attention to the upper population of our community, maybe because I'm in that population now, but that we talk a lot about younger people and young families and people that are coming here because of COVID and they can work from home. But I would remind us that there is an older population here and that we would have a good transportation system for them, which I believe that we don't have right now, that I would enhance that. I think that we need to, it would be ideal if we would be able to come back and strengthen our Parks and Rec department, because that has been so important to people who do have kids and their families, and if we could start up our after school programs again. There's a lot that we can do to support and help each other, not just do big projects.
Thank you. Mr. Sadowski, followed by Mr. Weiss.
The first thing I would do is address what is referred to as the 60-40 sewer Main Street line. Mr. Davis is mistakenly, he's wrong. We have sewage entering our drinking water aquifer, the Morro Basin aquifer. It's been proven with the sucralose test. The city has a one water plan that a few years ago that they put on, and that was one of the priority projects that needs to be done. I would restore our relationship with the Cayucas Sanitary District, and they own 40% of that line, and I would do in collaboration with Cayucas, I would share intellectual property and address that issue. That's the focus right there. That's what we need to fix first. Get our drinking water aquifer. I'll do a pharmaceutical test before and a follow-up test. Especially now with COVID, we have, recently we had different cities are checking and addressing COVID issues through the wastewater stream. The other issue I would address is the infill development, addressing the vacation rental, the commercialization of our residential areas, and also most importantly, addressing the general plan with a future vision in mind that's knowledgeable in that area of climate crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss.
Well, I appreciate many of the comments. That's one of the advantages of going last, but I will say a few things that may not have been said. But to begin with, I think we need to get our finance in order. I think number one. Number two, I think we need to get our hotel occupancy up, and we need to figure that out because that will also bring in more income. We need to look at vacation rentals and figure out a way to bring peace to our neighborhoods. At the same time, we need to collect the appropriate TOT and also address the unlicensed operators that are operating under the radar screen and are not paying their fair share. I would look at solving the water reclamation facility issue by having the committee and figure out the lowest cost way of solving that problem. I would look at zoning to help with the affordable housing. And I have a few ideas there, but I don't think I have enough time. I think it's important to look at the general plan. I think we need a vibrant harbor, and I would support and listen to our fishermen. And finally, as much as I like the wind idea, I think it's more than 5 years away. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 6 minutes left, so I'm going to throw something out here at you candidates. We're going to go through each of you, and just with one word or two, let me know, tell our viewers what you believe is Morro Bay's greatest asset. And we'll start with Laurel Barton. Just a real quick response.
I think our greatest asset is the natural beauty that we have here, and the ability to be out and walking or riding your bike practically every day of the year. It's just a wonderful place to live.
Great, thank you. Mr. Heading, followed by Ms. Winholtz.
One asset?
One asset, greatest asset.
Our people, Our people are our greatest asset. We have a wonderfully diverse, opinionated group of people that aren't afraid to share their ideas. And I just think that that leads to a vibrant community of individuals who express themselves in a transparent manner to move the city forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Winholtz.
In addition to the two previously mentioned items, I would add the sense of safety that we feel here, that we have a police force that we feel protects us, whether they're seen or not seen. We have paramedics that are at our doorstep within a minute if someone falls. And I think the sense of not being alone, but being supported by our first responders.
Thank you. Mr. Sadowski.
Our economic engine here is an organic one, and that is that's why people come over here, and that's why I feel that we need to really protect that and be good stewards of our area.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss.
Well, I hate to agree with Mr. Heading, but I would agree that our people are our most important asset. But I think it's part of the reason I'm running. I've been so inspired by people who have said that because of my business background that they feel that I can bring us together. I appreciate all the comments that have been made personally by the other candidates. But I think that our people, and our people include our police and fire officers. It includes the many retired people. Our retired community has a wealth of knowledge, and that would include our, I would tie it to the fact that many of the people that served on our water reclamation advisory board were retired experts. And I think that they would bring, again, value to the table. And so, again, everything centers around the people. And I think because of that, those people will also help preserve the beauty of where we are and what we do and what do we have that we enjoy. Because I enjoy going for a walk with my daughter and my dog and my wife, and I want Morro Bay's character to remain special. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
I am happy to agree with both mayoral candidates. Morro Bay's greatest asset is its engaged citizenry. Both as a volunteer force, the number of volunteer organizations we have in this city is phenomenal, and people who are engaged in the political process and in important decision making. I can't tell you how many emails I get on every issue, and I love hearing from everybody. Thank you, Morro Bay, for supporting us.
Okay, well, we are out of time. So in closing, the League of Women Voters would like to thank the candidates for attending and sharing your views. But really, truly, thank you so much for taking the time to run for public office. It's not everybody can do it, and I know your citizens truly appreciate your time and your dedication to your community. Thanks to everyone who submitted questions, and thank you to AGP Video for streaming the forum, and of course, the Morro Bay Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this important event. The video of this forum will be available for replay on Slow Span Channel 20, as well as on the websites of the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce in Morro Bay. Please make sure your voter registration is updated. Everybody is going to receive a mail-in ballot this year, and there will be in-person voting on November 3rd, but those locations will be very limited. You can refer to votersedge.org as a very useful resource to educate yourself on the candidates and the measures on your ballot. Please remember to vote. And once again, thank you all candidates for attending tonight.
Thank you.